Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for scheduling the hearing on our bill, the Water Quality Certification Improvement Act, and efforts to improve implementation of 401 broadly. I'm very appreciative of that. I'd like to ask a process question first, Governor Gordon. In the process, the state permits under the 401. But once that permit is granted, there are all kinds of other federal agencies that then weigh in on the permit, like the Corps, Fish and Wildlife. And can you flesh that out a little bit for me?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you don't know the details, I can write it in a written question and have somebody.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Capito. You are correct. The Section 401 is specifically about water quality. It was not intended to be a catch-all for all environmental regulation, and I think it's important that we keep, and I think that's what the value of this particular draft bill is to make sure that we keep it on topic of water quality, because as you point out, there are many other agencies that weigh in beyond that, from the Corps of Engineers to Fish and Wildlife Service and others. So it is an extensive process that really has to be done both on a state and a federal level.
Right. So I'd like to point out that this legislation does not violate our state's rights to protect the quality of their water. Everybody here on the dais and in the audience and probably across this great country are just as invested in water quality and clean drinking water as the next person. But what we found in a state like West Virginia is we exert our right under the 404 and then the 401, excuse me, and then we get sued by other external groups to try to prevent the direction that we want to go. Maybe that's not the direction that Washington State wants to go, but it's the direction that we as West Virginians want to go. And so that's very frustrating. So, you know, I guess in the grand scheme of things to both the governors, does this legislation in any way prevent you from continuing to ensure water quality consistent with the Clean Water Act?
Mr. Chair, Senator Capito, I do not believe it does. And as I say, I have extensive experience with the state's regulatory apparatus, having served on the Environmental Quality Council and having actually prosecuted several examples of these permits being issued and being contested. Never did I see the state's opportunity to regulate appropriately interfered with. As I've mentioned before, I think states have multiple rights, and one of them is certainly the right to commerce. That, I think, is somewhat being precluded as we see the creep of 401 to include other things.
Governor Stitt, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, no, I do not think it limits our ability as a state to regulate our water quality. And I just want to address kind of the states' rights issue. You know, today we're talking about pipelines and we're talking about exporting coal, but tomorrow it may be exporting agricultural goods, or it might be exporting beef, or I think that's exactly what
it might be exporting energy generated by a solar panel.
It could be, yeah, that's correct. We could, you know, and I think we've talked enough here. We're so proud of Oklahoma being the capital of all the pipeline capital of the world, and yet we've given you the facts on our water quality. This is really an attack on states' rights to be able to export their assets, and that's where one state's rights, where does it impinge on another state?
Right. As governor of, obviously, you've stated the robust production of natural gas and oil, and my state of West Virginia is new to the well, we're not new to the natural gas business, but we're new to the proliferation through the Marcellus and Utica shale. And I think it's rather ironic that we have two major pipelines now stopped because of permitting issues. But we also look where we're situated in this country, where we could be exporting our gas to New York State and to the Northeast to replace what I think is one of the dirtiest fuels around, and that's fuel oil. And so I'm not sure that we're into genuine arguments here in terms of how to weigh the cost and benefit environmentally and also economically at the same time. And so I don't know, Governor, if you had a comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the hypocrisy of having a Russian oil tanker sitting in the Boston harbor, transporting oil and natural
It
gas
had been
through.
to Tobago, too. Remember, it came down from London to Tobago and
That's
then
right.
back up to Boston. How much carbon footprint is that?
That's right. Transporting oil and natural gas through pipelines is the safest way to do it versus truck or train or obviously by ship. So
Thank
we love it. We think it's the right thing, thing. And this is just about time and scope and clarity around 401. So
All right.
that's why we're supportive.
Thank you.